What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets, Action Network's daily NBA betting podcast. We're in the workshop Thursday, NBA slate, and it's your usual crew. I am your host, Sean Little. With me on a Thursday is J Money, Is Money, and AC, the analytics capper, Albert Wynn. We got a 4-game slate for you people, but a lot of question marks surrounding them all. A lot of people questionable on the injury list, but you know we'll give you some nuggets, some info. Either way, we are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app. Everything you need to know about everything is in the app. Alerts, line movement, money splits, articles, professional pro alert, leans, everything is in the Action Network app. Go download it right now. You know how we get down. We'll give you our play. We'll give you our cap. We'll get you guys out of here. J Money Is Money, the busiest man on the Action Network. What are you looking at here on a Thursday? A little murky NBA slate.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I hate this slate. I was looking at it all day, trying to find something that I absolutely love. Probably won't be betting anything tomorrow, but super close to betting the Indiana Pacers plus 3.5. So that's going to be my heavy lean for the show.
AC, analytics capper.
You know, it's hard for me to refrain from even one placing one bet, but I agree with Jay. It's a tough slate. I also lean the Pacers really strong, and I also like if there's no Maxey and Embiid, I think Tobias Harris is going to go off for the Sixers. So those two are the looks I'm looking into for Thursday night, but nothing official, no play.
Speaking of Sixers, Jazz, that's where my play is at. I'm going to go Chris Dunn, no triples made versus the Sixers. I'm seeing a minus 130 right now in the market. We'll get to it. All right, fellas, let's go back because you know I want to talk about the Knicks. I'll talk about the Knicks and the Pacers all day long. This is a fun matchup, but there are some question marks here. OG Anunoby is still questionable coming off of 2 straight missed games with an inflamed elbow. Then we have Tyrese Halliburton, who made it back, clearly wasn't right, trying to stay within that games played limit so he can be available for all NBA and a lot of money, potentially $50 million on the table for Tyrese Halliburton. That's why he was in the fold. Now, he only played 22 minutes. He still did have 10 assists. So those two guys are big question marks. And the New York Knicks have been absolutely nails over the entire month of January. Jay, I'm going to come to you first. Why do you lean Pacers here when the Knicks are at home? They've been absolutely mashing people night in, night out.
Yeah, but they're not going to win every single game. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the hardest things to do. One of the sharpest things to do in sports betting is to figure out when a winning streak is going to end and when a losing streak is going to end as well. Like a lot of people have to say, oh, I have to see it first, especially with the winning streak. Or no, really both of them, because when teams are losing, I was on the Miami Heat tonight. People are like, there's no way in hell you can take the Heat in the situation that they're in or the place they're in. I'm like, I'll do it with confidence and then go up there and get the job done. So I do think the Knicks are obviously they're going to drop one of these games. They're not going to go undefeated, especially with losing Julius Randle. That hadn't really showed up yet. Even a few games without OG Anunoby as well. That hadn't showed up yet, but they have played a couple of cupcakes. They played against the Charlotte Hornets, who we know is an absolute cupcake, and then they played the Utah Jazz on the last game of a 6-game road trip. So they're going up against a little bit different beast here. I do think if Anunoby is out once again, paired there with Randle, they're going to be missing their size going up against this Indiana Pacers team that is a very deep squad. I mean, they have the guards, they have the wings that can match up against these guys, and they got a few bigs as well. They can bang with Hardenstein over there. You see what I'm saying? So one of these games, I'm telling you this, that obviously they're not going to win the rest of the season, but one of these games are going to show that Randall's missing, and obviously OG as well. If he does miss this game, if OG's out, I'll be it's going to be really hard for me not to at least sprinkle some on the Pacers here plus the points. And I just want to say one last thing. It's kind of crazy that Halliburton, now I know it's a ton of money, but it's just crazy. It's like, I can't miss no more games now because I got to make that all NBA team. So it's just pretty crazy. I know he calls it stupid, but I actually like the 65 game threshold, and I actually think that it should be 70, but that's for a whole nother rant. I know the Knicks are red hot, 8 straight wins, but don't be a bit surprised if they lose this game outright.
AC, the numbers currently sitting on the board as we look at it is -3.5, -3 at some spots. It's moving a little bit. It looked like it opened around 4, depending on where shop you were looking at, and it's now down to 3 in some spaces. I mean, I agree with Jay. They're not going to continue to win games, and it's absolutely about we're in a buy low, sell high business. If you're afraid to fire on a team on an 8-game a losing streak, or flip the opposite and fade a team that's on a 9-game win streak, you're in the wrong business. You're not going to be able to make money. You have to have a little bit of that predictability, that ability to figure out what's going to happen before it does happen. AC, why are you looking at the Pacers here in this spot?
Yeah, it's all about spots, right? I think we talk about this on a nightly basis, and Jay, Sean, you too, you guys are really sharp and very cognizant on those type of spots, whether it's rest advantage, disadvantage, whether it's travel, whether it's injuries, whether a team is just super hot, white hot right now. Jay mentioned it, 8 in a row, 9 in the last 10. They are one of the best home teams in the league, 17-5. So why would you fade them? My question is the hottest team in the NBA, and they're only 3-point favorites against the Pacers potentially without their best player. Those are kind of, we talk about murky waters all the time. That to me is a Pacers play or nothing at all. But I will say, um, New York here, they kind of get off to a somewhat slow start in that first quarter, and then they turn it on. I think if there's potential here for the Pacers is to take advantage of the slow start, whether it's getting hot from three with Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, whether Pascal Siakam is, playing the two-way game that he plays. They just need to build a huge lead. So that Knicks momentum is going to come. That those fans in the Garden is going to get crazy when the Knicks go on a run, but they have to withstand that run. And I think it's going to be all about how big they can build the lead. So to me, I agree. I think it's a Pacers play or nothing at all. I actually would like Indiana more if Tyrese Halliburton was not going to go. Not because he's not a great player. He's definitely an all NBA type, all-star type player. But I think the Pacers, from a handicapping standpoint, I'm estimating and projecting this a game without Halliburton. So I don't want, another variable to come in there.
Yeah, let's. I'm very close to the Knicks. I'm at every home game. I'm following the team very closely. I'll keep it a bean when we're talking about the Knicks. They have been awesome, but they've really had guys step up in every single spot that they've needed to on this ridiculous run that they've had. Knicks have been getting it done at home. People are stepping up when necessary. They've not only been winning, they've been covering. They're 13-3 ATS their last 16. Now, let's talk about the last 2 games specifically. Very good spots for the Knicks versus teams they should be covering against, and were overall good situations. The game against Charlotte is Charlotte. Now, there was a stretch in that game, especially in the first half, where the Knicks look very regular in the first half, and it was a tight game. They ended up pulling away in the second half, got it done. Now, then they go back home. They play Utah. The Jazz are then this is the 6th game of a 6-game road trip for them. They're trying to get home. They absolutely just can't get it done. And Dante DiVincenzo goes ballistic for a second game in a row. Last 2 games for Dante DiVincenzo, he had 5 threes versus Charlotte, and he had 9 threes against Utah. 33 points and 28 points, respectively, in those 2 games. That's a big hole to fill. Without Julius Randle and OG Anunoby, that's like a 48% usage gap that needs to be filled. And Dante DiVincenzo and the rest of the guys have been filling that on a night-to-night basis. I thought Utah, with how good they've been playing offense the last 15 games, like number 1 and number 2 in the NBA, would be able to put a lot more pressure on the Knicks coming into the game, but then Dante DiVincenzo comes up and fills that hole. Josh Hart has a triple-double. Precious Achua has 18 points. So a lot of guys are coming up and filling those holes. So if they have an off game from one of these guys, if Brunson doesn't score 30, if Dante just comes back down to earth and scores 15, 16, I think that's where they could potentially get caught up here with a quick-paced, high run and gun type team with the Pacers. So I think it's a really interesting spot I couldn't talk you off to shout out my guy Jay for you taking the Pacers here in this spot, especially if
Yeah,
Tyrese Halliburton
Sean,
comes out and plays
one more
30
thing.
minutes.
One more thing here, and Jay taught us all this. You also look at the upcoming schedule, right? If you look at the Knicks, they actually play Lakers Saturday night. Could be LeBron's last time in the Garden. Everybody's gonna be, getting up for that game, whether it's fans, players. It's on ABC Saturday night, so that could be the game that they're focused on and potentially overlook the Pacers. So just another angle you want to look at.
One last thing for me. Look at Obi Toppin's points. I know he's coming off the bench now, but he used to play for the Knicks. And I'm sure, I mean, this is the new day and age of social media. I'm pretty sure that he saw that the Knicks were happy to get the quote unquote soft guys off of the team, talking about RJ Barrett, Manuel Quickly, and Obi Toppin there. So don't be a bit surprised if Obi Toppin has a little extra pep in his step for this game in the Garden.
Yeah, and those guys are going to want to get him the rock. They know what happened in last year and why he is actually on their team now with the Pacers. So that should be a really interesting game. I think it's the most interesting game on the board with LeBron and AD being questionable going to Boston. Memphis and Cleveland's not all that interesting altogether. So stay tuned on this Pacers-Knicks game. The fellas lean Pacers and the points. Try to catch a 3.5 if you can. All right, I'm going to Utah. I'm going to take Chris Dunn not to make a three, minus 130 right now in the market. I have this closer to minus 145 for this particular spot for Chris Dunn to make a three. Flat out, he doesn't get enough volume from three or the minutes that warrant not fading him here. The Jazz have played 16 games in January. He's hit a three. He's hit 1+3 in 8 of those 16. But on average in the month, he's only taken 1.3 attempts a game. He's only taken 2 or more attempts 4 times. So he's usually getting up 1, maybe even 2 tops when we're talking about Chris Dunn from behind the arc. Let's talk about home road splits for Chris Dunn. He doesn't play as much as he does on the road at home. In 24 road games, he's averaging 19 minutes and 1.8 3-point attempts a game. In 17 home games, he's averaging 15 minutes a game and under 1 3-point attempt a game. Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, the young bull, Colin Sexton are all getting big minutes before Chris Dunn. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Dunn played 13, 14 minutes here at this spot with the Jazz getting home after struggling a bit on this road trip. Lastly, it's a bad matchup versus the Sixers. Sixers are number 1 in the NBA in opponent three-point percentage allowed at 34.1. They're tied with Portland at the top of the league. Like I mentioned, Jazz just finished up a 6-game trip and are back home, got a day off. They're 2-5 in their last 7. I think they get back to playing their brand of basketball at home where they're comfortable, where they're one of the toughest teams in the league to beat. And Chris Dunn getting up 3-point attempts is not a part of that equation. I expect him to get up 1 attempt, tops 2. If we could fade 1, maybe 2 of those, no Chris Dunn triples made versus the Sixers. I'm going to lay the juice minus 130. Fellas, I know you guys aren't. Jay, I know you specifically, both of you guys aren't big prop guys. I'm not a big prop guy myself, but the board was murky, as we talked about. A lot of guys questionable in going. When I was breaking it down, I thought this was a spot that was mispriced. So I'm going with it. Chris Dunn, no threes made. Any comments on this matchup? Any comments on Utah overall as a team? I guess when they go on the road, they don't win. When they go back home, they do get it done. Interesting spot here. Jay.
Yeah, I mean, you almost talked me into it. I hate playing props as well, man. If it was like 1.5, I'd be on this shit with you. But even still under a half, I mean, he's kind of been like the starting point guard, but he's not playing full point guard minutes. Like you said, he's only playing like 13, 14, 15 minutes the last few games, and then they'll have Clarkson come in and play 35 minutes off the bench. It almost seems like maybe they're trying to get Clarkson to win 6 minutes a year. So it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna bring him off the bench, but we're gonna play him starter minutes. You see what I'm saying? So it's just crazy, but it definitely makes a lot of sense. That seems to be the script with Utah. Look at Jordan Clarkson's props, and you probably get a little bit better value since he's coming off the bench. But Chris Dunn, it looks like he's the starting point guard. He's not the starting point guard over there. I mean, just because you're starting the game, if you're not playing starter minutes, then that's what actually matters there. So, and it's the first game home after a 6-game road trip as well. Definitely not one of the best of spots. We know the Sixers have been losing games. Looks like they might be able to get Maxey back here, but we know that Joel Embiid Embiid is out for sure. So it's a tough game for me. Philly will lack size in this game, but I never really back a team coming back home off a 4 or 5 or more game road trip. It's a little different from the Jazz because these are younger guys, but I don't really have a good feel for this game. If I had to bet it, I'd probably take Sixers first half, but I definitely need Maxey in there for sure.
I guess this is the one of the few times I kind of disagree with Jay. I think this is a dead spot for Philadelphia, to be honest. This is the last game of their road trip. They're going up to elevation in Utah. People forget that it's elevation there in Utah. And for the most part, I agree with Jay. It's hard to back a team that's been on the road for a week and a half, and then coming back to their home arena and shooting. But I think this is such a good spot for Utah to take advantage of a hurt Philly team, to take advantage of the fact that they've lost 3 or 4 games in a row and they're coming back home where Sean mentioned it, they're just a lot better home team than a away team. So instead of back in the first half, I would never go against my guy Jay. I hope they get down at halftime, and then I would probably slam Utah second half because I think they would just dominate from a pace standpoint and from a depth standpoint, because without Joel Embiid and potentially without Maxey, I don't think Philly's the same team at all.
All right, to recap, AC and J Money is money. Lean the Pacers. Try to catch a 3.5 if you can versus the Knicks. And I'm going to go Chris Dunn not to make a 3-pointer minus 130 in their home matchup versus the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey questionable. Keep an eye on that as well. For J Money is money. For AC Analytics Capper, I am your host, Sean Little. Don't forget it. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app and then go tell a homie to download the Action Network app and then tell a friend to download the Action Network app as well. Until tomorrow, we'll see y'all. Get buckets, baby. Later.